So how are you surviving the lockdown?
Very good, man. I just I just finished writing a book for DeCapo Hatchet Publishing,
Uh-huh.
and so that was really keeping me busy.
And what kind of book is it?
It's a kind of behind-the-scenes memoir, but more about all the people that I worked with and what was going on in my life while that stuff was happening. And
Right.
yeah, it was it took a year, 75,000 word book. So
Man.
yeah, so I just turned in my first draft. Everybody likes it, but we got some work, a little more punching up to do on it.
So just give me a brief overview. What kind of stories are you telling in this book?
It's about basically like me playing with Waylon and Johnny Cash, or working on movies with Rob Zombie and Malcolm McDowell, and playing for Bill Clinton, and working with, touring with Social Distortion, and
Right.
just all kinds of stuff, all kinds of stuff. I'm basically the only guy, the knucklehead that gets thrown under the bus. Everyone else is love and admiration,
Jeez. Well, I got to say, I don't think I've heard a sentence including Rob Zombie, Bill Clinton, and Waylon Jennings before, so that's pretty cool.
It's funny. It's funny that you bring that up, because the way the book came about was I was writing rants online, and a friend of mine who's a literary agent was having dinner with this guy named Ben Schaefer, who's a big, editor. He did the Replacements book and the Steve Jones book and a bunch of stuff. DeCapo did.
Right.
And he mentioned my name, and my friend was like, I know Jesse Dayton. He's like, well, tell him to give me 3 chapters and I'll give it to the board, because I really like what he's writing online. So I gave him 3 chapters. What do Rob Zombie, Bill Clinton, and Waylon Jennings all have in common?
If that doesn't do it, nothing will. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, so they called me like a couple of days later, and they're like, do you want a book publishing deal? And I'm like, absolutely.
Very cool. So when do you see that hitting the stands, or whatever it hits these days?
That won't be till next year. It'll be next year. And yeah, I'm hoping to, go out and kind of do some one-man shows around it.
Right.
That
sounds like fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah.
Now we're here to talk about your new EP that's being released on Friday, called Gulf Coast Sessions.
Yeah.
My understanding is that it's inspired by the interstate between Beaumont to New Orleans. Now, for folks who are in New Zealand, they may not be completely familiar with that area and that stretch of road. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit for us.
Well, really, that area is where all of Cajun country is. It kind of fizzles out once you get past Houma and closer to New Orleans, because New Orleans is, more of a multicultural city, and not as much as a Cajun thing. But, right when you cross the border, I grew up right on the Texas-Louisiana border.
Right.
So I grew up listening to all this Zydeco and New Orleans and South Louisiana kind of Cajun country, and then rhythm and blues was a big thing. And then also had East Texas right there as well. So there was a lot of great blues stuff. And I'm old enough to where, I was kind of the last generation to have pre-computer, pre-MTV, like regional radio.
Right.
So I remember all that stuff as a kid, and so that's kind of, I wanted to make a different record. I kind of created this character in the vocal booth, and it's just a whole like little love letter to I-10, Interstate 10.
Very cool. And so this character that you created, perhaps you can elaborate on that as well.
Well, I'll tell you, man, I was in Lafayette, and I was playing this gig one night at this place called the Blue Moon Saloon. It's a very it's a very like famous honky tonk, right?
Right.
And there's this old black guy named Felton who was helping park cars out in the parking lot. And Felton was this character, and he said, I had this old car, and he goes, "Oh man, I bet you got that lo-fi cassette player in it." And I go, "Yeah, man, you like the lo-fi sound?" He goes, "Yeah, baby, I'm a lo-fi lover." And,
there's
and
a
I
song.
thought, that's gold, you know. But I kind of base it around, like, I'm really into this record label out of Louisiana called Excello, and they had these artists named Slim Harpo and Lazy Lester and that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of that. There's some Lightning Hopkins, East Texas blues kind of stuff, some Mance Lipscomb guitar sound stuff, and you know, very little bass on it. I played everything on the record except for a little accordion on the Zydeco song, which is Bradley J. It's this great accordion. And then Beth Chrisman played a little bit of that sawing Cajun fiddle on one song. But I kind of did this at a buddy of mine's house, and just to kind of out of boredom.
Well, that's one. I mean, how difficult is it? Because it sounds very live and like there's musicians playing with each other. Is that a difficult vibe to achieve when you're doing pretty much most of it yourself?
Well, what I would do is I would set up this old funky 1966 Ludwig drum set on my buddy's porch, and then we had all this recording gear out there, and we had everything we played through was like old school tube amps, and we got these crappy mics that this guy had gotten from a school auditorium, and we just ran everything through it. But I would go and play the drum part. So I started out playing drums, but I hadn't played in years. So I would sit there for hours and just work on the drum part and get it down, and then just write an arrangement and play the drum part, and then just start laying stuff down on it. But it sounds like it's live. I think because I was having a lot of fun doing
right.
it.
I think possibly a highlight is what's it called, the Bow Monster Boogie, which almost sounded like the Cramps to me. And maybe you can tell me what a Bow Monster is.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up the Cramps, because I love the Cramps. The Cramps and the Clash saved me from bad heavy metal ballads.
There you go.
But I'm from Beaumont, Texas, and we call each other Bow Monsters sometimes. You know, there's a lot of great musicians from Beaumont. You know, Johnny and Edgar Winter and Barbara Lynn and all these really cool musicians. But the song was inspired because I came home to see my mom in Beaumont, and she had just finished writing this recipe cookbook. And the book was about all these, in Beaumont, they had the biggest oil gusher in North America called the Spindletop Oil Gusher. And it was real big, and it was before West Texas, you know? And so all these people moved there, man. All these immigrants moved there, you know, trying to get a piece of the gold. And they brought in all these amazing recipes and cultures. And of course, when everybody who made money split and left and went to Houston.
Right.
So I was like, that's the Bow Monster Boogie. They were boogieing out of town, you know. Right. So that's kind of where the song came from.
Very cool. No, it rocks along night, and it's got that distorted kind of vibe that reminded me of the Cramps, I think it was, and I'm assuming you did that on purpose.
Absolutely, man. I wanted it to, you know, rock, and I didn't want to just recreate, you know, something that had been done before. I want to kind of mess it up a little bit, you know.
Yeah. I think that was the first thing I noticed about the record, because I wasn't quite sure what to expect when I first played it. And I was like, "Whoa, this is much more raw and kind of out there than I was expecting." So good on you. And then, but there's like a Zydeco, like Mardi Gras Shake is kind of more of a Zydeco thing, right? And
Yeah, totally. One chord, man, the whole song.
there you go. That's all you need. And feelings in business. I love that she's talking feelings and I'm talking business. I mean, you can't argue with that either. So
yeah, man, that's got that, whole 50s and 60s New Orleans Latin beat to it. They're all into that rumba beat. And so that's got that vibe on it. And,
yeah, I guess it's kind of the Mexican influence and then like the Caribbean influence kind of comes together and meets where you are somehow, and that's
absolutely, man. I mean, you listen to any of those cool old records from New Orleans, Irma Thomas, or I mean, even the stuff that Little Richard did. There's some Latin, like kind of samba beats and stuff like that, and it's getting Burt Burns really turned everything around with that. He was the first one to go down to New Orleans and then bring that back to New York. And then they started Atlantic and all those guys started doing it. But it's got that kind of vibe to it,
Yeah, yeah. Have you seen the documentary about Burt Burns?
I have. I'm friends with his son.
Oh, yeah? Great.
Yeah, and his son was one of the filmmakers, and he sent me a copy of it, and it's glorious.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Fantastic. So what is the scene like down where you are now? I mean, I assume everything's kind of slowed down because of the COVID virus and all that, but are you expecting it to kind of bounce back and start doing gigs again soon?
Well, I mean, I don't think we're going to be able to. I don't think we're going to do anything until after the election, if you want to know the truth. Yeah. Because, I mean, we just don't have any leadership right now, and it's a free-for-all out there, and it's super dangerous. Texas is really, really a bad hot spot. We're basically where New York was, a month and a half ago. And, of course, all the all the politicians are trying to, like, kind of not say really how bad it is. And it's pretty bad down here right now. So I'm just chilling, man. I'm
gotta
like,
lay low, I guess.
I say lay low, keep the lights on, and make it through this without getting sick, and I'll have won.
Right. Well, I guess it's a good time to kind of gather yourself and maybe write a few new songs and figure out what you're going to do next. Have you done that? Do you know what you're going to do next?
Well, that's why I wanted to put out this little record as a bridge record and something for my fans until I get the next record, because this isn't normally the kind of record I make. My records are usually like more country, Americana.
Right.
I mean, they got the energy, but they're not as like raw Gulf Coast rhythm and blues stuff. And right now I've got a bunch of new songs that I'm working on. I have a radio show back here in the States on Gimme Country. It's just GIMME country.com.
Right.
And it's become a really popular station. And I guess I can tell you this news since you're in New Zealand. I don't think it's really going to make any difference. But
nothing does.
Yeah, I mean, but later in the week, I'm getting a feature in Rolling Stone magazine for the new Gulf Coast Session records we're talking about. And I'm also telling them that Gimme Country is giving me my own 24-hour station.
Nice.
So it's going to be called the Jesse Dayton Station.
Very cool.
And we have a lot of listeners in Australia. We were supposed to be over there this summer.
Right.
Playing Grease Fest, and I'd love to come to New Zealand.
Yeah. Do you usually play with a band, or are you solo when you do your gigs?
Oh no, I bring the band. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah,
we'd love to have you. Well,
it's a full-on experience.
I'm sure it is. It sounds like it. I love the House Party 2340 Delphine. It's a great way to rock. Yeah, I just get the feeling that we're in some sleazy bar somewhere rocking out. It's got to be good.
Yeah, House Party record. I mean, and I've been political on some of my records. The last record I did, I had a song called Charlottesville that was about the race riot in Charlottesville, Virginia, and it got picked up by Associated Press and Rolling Stone. Cool. And I feel like this was a great time to put out kind of a party record because, you know, the whole world's just being inundated with like identity politics and culture wars and rage bait and all
Right.
that. So I think people are going to enjoy this record right now because it just sounds like we're having a big house party, you know, with a bunch of Cajun people dancing, and well, the world could use more of that right now.
Well, good luck with the record. I loved it. It was fantastic,
Thank you.
and looking forward to the, you know, the full length thingy when you got that coming.